All right, we're back. We're going to become a launch monitor master step 3, working on numbers that you can control. Today we're going to talk vertical swing plane. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, Scott Oden coming at you. We are here, we are back in the studio. We are going to be talking about some vertical swing plane today. It's a little bit of a tricky number as always, but we are going to be going through this one nice and in depth so you can have an idea of what you're looking at when you are looking at your golf swing. So before we do that, we will be at the PGA show next week. Make sure you click that subscribe button. We will have plenty from there. A lot of appointments, a lot of things already set up. Really excited about seeing what's new in the golf industry, so make sure you do not miss out on that. All right, so we're starting off with vertical swing plane here, okay? So again, a little bit of a different number, one that can be a little bit confusing, and to be 100% honest, when we're looking at numbers that you can manipulate, this one is the hardest for me to manipulate. And I think that is a good thing, but also sometimes it can be a little bit of a challenge when you're trying to work on this number as well. Because what we are looking at is, just like when we were looking at horizontal swing plane, okay, what we were looking at is, this is a number that is measured at the point where you would basically have zero angle of attack, so the bottom of your arc. And what we're looking at with vertical swing plane is, we are looking at the golf club head. We're looking at the center of the mass of the club head, and basically what is the angle of that club head. So a lot of people think it has something to do with the shaft. It actually doesn't, okay? There are things that can happen in a golf shaft that would affect this, such as you can get some toe down droop. That's something that if you have a system like Gears, you can actually measure that. It's pretty negligible, to be honest, if you're looking at for most people. And it's something that, again, I would look at if you're getting this first part of it dialed down and you're really looking to get advanced. That's when I would start looking at that number, is that toe down droop effect, right? So again, we're just looking at what is the angle of the club as we are going through that hitting area. So when we're kind of connecting the dots, when we go from waist high or even lower, like knee high to knee high, it gives us this look of a plane of like, hey, what is kind of the inclination of that plane? Okay, so really, really important number, because it can be very important for club fitting, your lie angles, things like that, right? It also can have some effect on, hey, this is how you're going to hit the ball in the center of the face. It also can have an effect on if you're going to be able to turn the ball over or hit fades, anything like that. So that is what the vertical swing plane number, or if you're looking at it in flight scope, it's going to be your V plane. That's what that number is essentially measuring, okay? So if you have quad, you actually have this number in a little bit of a different form. They do have a toe up number that actually is very, very helpful, and I do like that number. So you can look at this number from that perspective. You're essentially getting the same thing. It's just how much is the toe up off of the ground as you're going through to hit. Again, that can be very helpful when you're hitting, let's say, your driver, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Now, what are the things that can be affected when you're looking at vertical swing plane? Well, to be honest, you can affect a lot of things. You can affect your ability to make center contact. That's a big one, okay? So if I have, let's say, I am bringing it in and my vertical swing plane is getting too high relative to how my clubs are built. The handle is going to go up. You know, my club head is going to be angling this way, okay? So what happens is the handle's going up. Look at where the club head moves. It's moving in, right? So I'm going to hit a lot more off the toe, and I'm going to start hitting shots that go a little bit out to the right. Also could promote a little bit of a draw path, though, when we see this. When we get it, people will work on, hey, I'm going to start pushing out more. That does actually push the handle up a little bit, so it can be a good thing promoting a draw. It can affect your ball flight. We tend to see a little bit more of a flatter swing plane when you have a fader. Again, these are not set in stone necessarily, but these are just tendencies that you tend to see, okay? You can also affect your ability to have good trajectory, your low point. It really can start affecting a lot of things as you're going through. For me, when we're looking at this number, what I like to see is, one, I want to see that your vertical swing plane is somewhere around what your clubs are built to, right? So again, my 8-iron, 62 degrees. My 6-iron's around 61. What you're going to see is PGA Tour average with a 6-iron is going to be around 60 degrees. With a driver, it's going to be closer to 45. All right. So you're going to see something like that as you're going through. it gets flatter as you go throughout the bag. So you want your swing plane to match where your clubs are built. So this goes back to when we talk about horizontal swing plane, where people think, hey, I've got to swing the same way with all of my clubs. Well, that's actually not exactly true, right? People can hit their short irons, but they can't hit their driver because those shorter irons are built more vertical. And if they kind of have that over the top look, kind of something like this, that could actually make it a little easier for them to be able to get some good contact. Whereas when they get to the driver, things get really off as they're going through. Now, if you have a quad, what we see, the number we like to see with the driver is the toe up number. You actually would see on a driver, most professionals and good drivers are hitting with that toe 4 or 5 degrees up. So they're really kind of flattening out that shaft, and they're really getting that club where the toe of the driver is up. Again, I think there is some merit that they are trying not to hit the ball left. You got a lot more faders on the PGA Tour, I think, than most people are trying to hit draws. So again, I think you're going to see your swing plane numbers be a little more vertical than those tour averages. The key number that you're looking at, though, is how consistent are you with it, right? I really want to see somebody that is having a consistent vertical swing plane. So within plus or minus 1.5 degrees, that would be very, very good. All right. So that would tell us that as you're going through to make swings, hey, we got a good delivery. We're not doing too much crazy stuff at impact, and we're letting our swing really kind of go through the hitting area without much work, which is what we're hoping. We're hoping to get it to just swing on through hopefully as naturally and fast as possible as we're going through. So again, if we're seeing the number really close to where your clubs are built and we're seeing it be pretty consistent, then that's something I do like, and that's something we typically would see. When we're looking at it on video, you typically would kind of look at it from a shaft plane line. Again, not always going to be 100% true because you could have some manipulation down at the bottom, but I think if you're swinging closer to that, generally that shaft plane line that we always see and hear about, hey, bring it back and bring it down, you're probably going to have a pretty decent look at your vertical swing plane number as you're going through. Again, not always true, but that's usually a good place to start. So how do we affect this number? What are things that we can do? Well, if we're going to try, let's say you have a vertical swing plane that is too high, okay? Again, this is going to be probably what most people see is they have too high of a vertical swing plane number. Unless you're somebody that slices, again, if you're kind of swinging extremes, you might not see it, but I tend to see it be a little high, okay? But what we're looking at is when we're going through, we want to see somebody that is swinging in a way that is really letting that club just kind of start swinging. So what I try to get people to do is realize you have to let your arms lower, okay? How much you let your arms lower, that's going to affect it, okay? How much you slide, how much I'm sliding forward, that will affect it, okay? Typically, when I slide more, I'm going to be kind of shoving it more out, okay? That's going to raise it up. That's also something you would do if you're trying to hit a draw, okay? If I'm lowering it and then really rotating, okay, more for a fade, that would lower that number because I can keep those hands kind of low around the body as we go. So that would be it. So it's really a combination of how are you working through lowering, tilt. If you slide, it's going to raise it. You turn more, it's going to lower it, okay? How are you bending as you go through to hit? Okay, are you somebody like this? Are you able to stay more into, I guess, your golf posture is what people would say? And really just getting a feel for letting that club work on through. So this is a number I work on. I do work on it quite a bit. I check it a lot because as I'm hitting shots, and I'll go ahead and hit one here for you, I do try to get mine lower, okay? So again, my 8-iron is built at 62 degrees. That one was at 63 degrees. The reason I can get up into 64, 65 sometimes, and what ends up happening is I'm going forward, I'm raising the handle, and then what I do is I actually have to do a lot of work with my hands. I tend to hit a lot of pulls and hooks with it. So I am trying to lower that plane a little bit. So again, the way I'm doing it, I am trying to lower and feel like I am rotating a little bit more with some lower hands as we go. The other thing I'm doing to help lower it is I'm feeling like I'm keeping some hinge at the bottom. So the description I've always heard is act like you're kind of flipping a quarter at the bottom. That kind of feel at the bottom helps me lower it and flatten things out as well, as opposed to pushing those hands forward or up, which would then raise it, which is where I can struggle. So that's going to be your vertical swing plane. A little bit of a kind of see what you got and kind of maintain it number, but it is a good one that you can start influencing that are going to have a major impact. So there's your vertical swing plane number. Again, a little bit of a, it's not as clear cut, hey, you need to hit all of these numbers, right? Hit these numbers like the pros do. There's more of a range of acceptability here. For me, again, I think it's very important to understand what effects that moving the club head like this is going to have. Again, the biggest one's going to be on your ability to hit the ball in the center of the face. If I'm pushing the hands up like this, look at where my club head goes. It's going in, so I'm going to hit it more on the toe. Vice versa, if I'm really low, it's going out. A lot more easy to hit a shank if you do that. So those are just a couple of the things that we do as we're looking at it when we're trying to figure out your vertical swing plane. Again, it has a really big role in fitting and seeing what you got going on there. And just one that you want to pay attention to. When you're hitting it good, you feel like it's good, look at it, see what it is, and then if your swing starts getting off, it's got a place to check and see what you got. Again, if you're swinging it well and you're close to your lie angle within about 1.5 degrees, you are going to be hitting it, you should be hitting it pretty well if you are able to do that. You're going to have a very controlled ball, maybe not hitting it dead straight how you want all the time, but it should stay pretty well in control if you're doing that. So if you have any questions about it, please leave a comment down below. We will be out at the PGA show next week, talking with FlightScope, Awesome Golf, Garmin, all of those people. So we will be there. Make sure you leave any questions down below as well, and we will see you next week from the show. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Click the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber already, and we'll see you then. Peace.